home at last. More than 300 South Koreans detained in the United States after last week's immigration raid are now back on home soil. We have the latest as well as what their return could mean for South Korea-U.S. relations. Special compensation for special sacrifices. At a town hall meeting with South Korea's border area residents, President Lee Jae-myung pledged stronger support, including plans to turn the region into a major tourist hub. KOSPI on a rally. South Korea's benchmark stock index surged to an all-time high on Friday. Tonight, we break down what's fueling the rally and whether the momentum can last. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Friday evening. I'm Song Yu-jin, filling in for Kim Da-mi. We begin tonight here in South Korea, where relief is setting in after a week of worry. More than 300 Korean workers detained in the U.S. state of Georgia finally returned home this afternoon. Now, to walk us through the latest developments, we're joined by Arirang's foreign affairs correspondent Oh Soo-young, who has been following this story from the start. Welcome, Soo-young.
Hi, Yu-jin.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Soo-young, let's begin with the live scenes of these Korean workers returning home after a very long and dramatic week.
Sure, Jan, what a week we've had. It was such a relief when we saw the 316 Koreans stepping through the airport at Incheon International Airport, of course, and 14 nationals of Japan, Indonesia and China as well. They all touched down in South Korea at 3:23 p.m. on Friday, ending their week-long detainment under U.S. immigration authorities, who conducted a massive raid on a Hyundai LG battery plant in Georgia. Now, after a 15-hour journey on a chartered Korean air flight from Atlanta, we saw Koreans stepping off the plane, evidently tired, many of them on their phones, presumably with their loved ones to tell them that they'd landed safely. Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Hoon-sik was also waiting for them, welcoming them back as soon as they stepped off the plane.
We are considering options like counseling to support their mental health. There was one pregnant woman on board, and we ensured she had a first-class seat. We welcomed them all back with applause and a sense of relief.
They are now homebound, some of them with their families, who greeted them very emotionally at the airport. The 14 foreign nationals will have their accommodation and their plane tickets to their home countries arranged by the company. During bilateral negotiations between Seoul and Washington to secure their release, South Korea pressured the United States to rule out deportation or trials and enable a swift voluntary departure so that the workers can avoid tarnishing their U.S. immigration records. Out of the 317 Koreans arrested, all but one who remains in the U.S. due to family ties have now completed their voluntary departure.
Right, but we know that this is not the end of this issue because this incident actually exposed a fundamental problem with visa issuance for Korean firms in the U.S. For example, when bringing over Korean workers to build and set up factories, right?
Yes, you're exactly right, Eugene. And as if to remind us of these outstanding issues, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun arrived back in Korea an hour after the workers' chartered flight. He flew over to Washington, D.C. earlier this week, not only to negotiate their release, but to also propose establishing a bilateral working group with the U.S. to work on visa tracks for professionals.
To resolve this issue fundamentally, we agreed to create a working group between the U.S. State Department and our Ministry of Foreign Affairs to establish a new visa category. This group will include talks on setting up a separate desk at the U.S. Embassy in Seoul so that people working in fields linked to Korean investment in the U.S. can obtain visas as quickly as possible.
This crisis proved how the lack of dedicated visa programs for Koreans makes it extremely difficult for firms to actually invest in the United States, as they cannot deploy workers with specialized skill sets to complete key facilities and set up operations. In fact, US President Donald Trump himself appeared to recognize this need for foreign skilled workers, especially Koreans, to enable foreign direct investment projects and ultimately strengthen American competence in high-tech areas. Trump even held up the Korean workers' chartered flight by almost 24 hours, suggesting that they stay on at the Georgia factory. Now, before leaving D.C., Minister Cho Hyun met with members of Congress who welcomed the idea of establishing a working group to prevent future incidents from recurring. And Cho explained to them that the Korean public is deeply concerned about the recent mass detention of Korean professionals who visited the United States really to faithfully carry out investment projects, and that he's been conducting consultations with the US with a very heavy heart.
And with that being said, we know that South Korea's top office today underscored the need for fundamental solutions, right?
That's right, Eugene. So earlier today, on Friday afternoon, National Security Advisor Wi Sung-lak told members of the press that from this incident, there is a task ahead, and that is to draw lessons and design measures to prevent recurrences from happening, really highlighting the role of the bilateral working group that Choi Hyun mentioned. He called for a phased approach to improve the current visa system and also create new visa categories. In doing so, he set out a roadmap of first clarifying guidelines on existing visa schemes to remove uncertainty for Korean firms. Second, working with the US to shorten the time taken to issue visas, for instance, as well as lowering rejection rates. In the long run, though, he said that US laws would need amending, though this might be difficult, of course, to create new visa quotas and create different types of visas for Korean professionals.
All right. Once again, we're really glad to see the safe return of Korean nationals, and we're really glad that you're here today. Thank you, Soo-young.
What a relief, and thank you for having me on, Eugene.
Thank you. And staying at the presidential office, President Lee Jae-myung was in Gangwon-do province today for one of his signature town hall meetings. There, he vowed compensation for people in the border region who have had to endure sacrifices and promised to ease regulations which have been in place for military purposes to promote culture and tourism. Here's our senior presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min.
Ensuring a reward for those who made special sacrifices. That was a promise, according to President Lee Jae-myung, who was in the border area of Gangwon-do province on Friday for one of his hallmark town hall meetings.
강원도 같은 이런 접경 지역이 치르는 특별한 희생, 지금까지 치르는 그 희생을 다 보상해 드릴 길은 없고, 이제 앞으로라도 충분히 억울하지 않게.
The lives of people in the border regions have often been affected by military restrictions and politics for a long time, especially at a time when inter-Korean ties hit lows, often paired with military tension. As President Lee revisited the need to shift away from a system too heavily concentrated on the capital and towards balanced regional development, a roadmap was laid out to transform the region into a key pillar for culture and tourism.
I suggest that under the concept of peace, we link the northern parts of Gangwon-do involving Cheolwon, Hwacheon, Yanggu, Inje, and Gosong, and create a peace tourism belt.
He was referring to a tourism project centered on counties near the DMZ, for which restrictions are expected to be eased in areas that have been off limits for military purposes, particularly areas north of the civilian control line.
We will review easing the regulations and try to solve the problems that the people and farmers in the region are facing.
군사시설 보호구역 해제가 사실 강원도 규제의 핵심인데 어느 범위까지 풀 거냐. 이제 꼭 필요한 데 말고는 다 풀어주면 좋겠다고.
On top of that, the Culture Ministry aims to establish a K-pop concert hall in Sokcho that can accommodate an audience of 20,000, while creating a marine leisure sports center in Yangyang. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
On the economic front, a new assessment from South Korea's finance ministry is fueling hopes that the domestic economy may finally be on the path to recovery. Moon Ji-young has the numbers and the outlook.
Strong positive signals are emerging from South Korea. This comes as the latest Economic Green Book, a monthly economic assessment report released by the Finance Ministry on Friday, highlights distinct improvements in consumer spending indicators.
Recently, the Korean economy has continued to face challenges such as delayed recovery in construction investment, employment difficulties concentrated in vulnerable sectors, and concerns over export slowdowns due to U.S. tariff measures. Nevertheless, positive signs for economic recovery are strengthening, including a surge in consumption driven by policy effects.
The ministry pointed to positive signs for the second consecutive month, suggesting the economy may be on a path to gradual recovery. In July, retail sales, a key gauge of private spending, rose 2.5% from a month earlier, representing the sharpest on-month increase since February 2023. The Consumer Sentiment Index also improved by 0.6 points in August. Exports rebounded in August, growing 1.3% from a year earlier to $58.4 billion on the back of robust global demand for semiconductors. However, shipments to the U.S. declined by 12% due to the U.S. tariff, hitting their lowest level in 2.5 years.
Regarding the U.S. economy, it appears the impact of tariffs is now starting to be felt. On the inflation front, this clearly seems poised to exert upward pressure on prices. Hence, we also view that uncertainty persists.
To proactively address these challenges and boost the domestic economy, the ministry said that the government will swiftly implement a supplementary budget. This package features a second round of cash handouts, known as consumption coupons, and plans for special sales events ahead of the extended Chuseok holiday in early October. 문지영, 아리랑 뉴스.
In the tech world, SK hynix has completed the development of the world's first high-bandwidth memory 4 chip, which is now ready for mass production. HBM4 is a next-generation memory chip for artificial intelligence accelerators, which is able to boost data processing speeds dramatically. SK hynix HBM development head Cho Ju-hwan said the company aims to, quote, meet customer needs in performance, power efficiency, and reliability in a timely manner. SK hynix's HBM4 is expected to be adopted in NVIDIA's next-generation graphics processing unit as early as the end of this year. Staying in economics, it's been a stellar week for the KOSPI, breaking record after record. And today, South Korea's benchmark stock index hit another milestone, closing in on 3,400. Our economics correspondent Park Jun-an looks at what's driving the rally and what it would take to reach the government's goal of 5,000.
After South Korea's benchmark KOSPI made history on Wednesday by surpassing its all-time record set in July 2021, the index has kept up its rally, closing the market on Friday at 3,395.54. Proving its strong rally, the KOSPI has gone up more than 41% this year, becoming Asia's best performer in the year to date. In fact, South Korean stocks have outperformed other major stock markets to date, including those of the United States, Japan, and the European Union. The main sectors that drove the KOSPI's rally this year were mainly semiconductors, shipping, and financial stocks. On Friday, South Korea's two biggest companies, Samsung Electronics and SK hynix, both recorded their 52-week highs. For SK hynix, it broke another record high as it went up by over 7% at the market's close and 92% to date this year.
Security stocks have benefited from expectations surrounding Commercial Act revision and tax policies, while semiconductor shares are gaining momentum from the ongoing AI investment cycle, supported by favorable government policies and external conditions.
While the index continues to set new records, an expert notes that strong corporate earnings and solid economic fundamentals are needed to further sustain the KOSPI's rally.
There are limits to relying on expectations alone. Strong economic fundamentals and corporate earnings need to follow, and through government initiatives, companies' profits can be strengthened, while visible improvements are needed in the sluggish domestic demand sector.
With foreign and domestic investors sustaining the KOSPI's rally, the next challenge is to break 4,000 points, as President Lee Jae-myung aims for the KOSPI to reach 5,000 during his term in office. Amid global uncertainties, ongoing policy support, Corporate earnings and the country's improved economic conditions will be key in determining its future direction. Park Junan, Arirang News.
Shifting gears now, if you're thinking about redecorating for the new season as fall is coming, there is a fair here in Seoul you won't want to miss. Park Hyo-bin takes us inside the Magok Living Design Fair.
A fresh burst of creativity is filling the capital this week, drawing crowds eager to discover how design shapes modern living. South Korea's largest living and lifestyle show, the Magok Living Design Fair, has kicked off at the KOEX Magok in Western Seoul. On an autumn day, visitors flock to explore furniture, decor, and smart home ideas right in time for the moving and wedding seasons.
I found this event very nice, actually. My partner brought me here because she's working in design, and yeah, I find everything amazing, actually. I never thought it was going to be that big. It's very nice.
This year's theme, The Absent House, A Certain House, asks what kind of home we truly need. Some 140 brands are presenting fresh concepts across 8 theme zones, where function meets unique material and technology meets emotion. There are modular tables that can be assembled in different ways, along with furniture that you could paint in your own colors, reflecting South Korea's growing one-person living trend. Sustainable pieces also stood out, from eco-friendly interiors to artful designs crafted with recycled plastic.
The bottle caps are first collected by NGOs and other non-profit groups, then sorted by senior citizens. We crush and reuse them, so about 2,000 caps go directly into each piece of furniture. This process greatly reduces carbon emissions, and the items can be recycled multiple times.
A key highlight is that online furniture and decor are gathered in one place, inviting visitors to experience them firsthand. Moreover, a special gallery, the Sixth Hue, allows visitors to wander through 6 colorful rooms, reimagining space through the language of color. Workshops with emerging artists have turned the venue into more than a showroom, a place where guests can create decor items and share the joy of making. The fair runs until this Sunday, showcasing the latest design trends that shape our lives. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
Over in Nepal, massive anti-government protests sparked by the government's social media ban have led to the deaths of more than 50 people. In response, South Korea has advised its citizens to avoid traveling to certain areas of the country. Our Gyeongbokgung reports.
More than 50 people have been reported dead in Nepal amid large-scale anti-government protests that erupted in response to the government's decision to block access to social media. According to AFP on Friday local time, the Nepalese police said that 51 people have died in recent protests. Nepal's health ministry previously had announced the death toll was 34, but police added 17 more fatalities in their latest update.
We need to fight for justice for our family who were killed, and we cannot stay silent any longer.
As protesters set fire to the residences of the president and prime minister, and police carried out a harsh crackdown, casualties sharply increased. When some prisoners staged a breakout at a local jail, some deaths occurred during clashes between Nepalese security forces and the escapees. The escaped inmates attempted to flee across the border into India, and some were apprehended by Indian border security forces. With Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigning on September 9th, talks are now speeding up on selecting the leader of an interim government to replace him. Former Chief Justice Sushila Karki and Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah are being mentioned as possible candidates. The unrest began on September 5th after the government blocked access to 26 social media platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Anger, especially among the younger generation over corruption, fueled the protests that spread nationwide. South Korea has issued a travel advisory for 3 parts of Nepal, namely Bagmati, Lumbini, and Gandaki provinces. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, one of the best ways to wrap up your week is with Arirang's weekly arts and culture segment. And for that, we have our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo in the studio. Welcome, Gun-woo.
Great to be here, Eugene.
Happy Friday. So, Gun-woo, tell us, what do you have for us today?
So I think you'll probably, and all of our viewers will probably enjoy today's segment. I'm going to share an experience where you can feel the autumn breeze to the fullest, and especially as temperatures have dropped much lower during the nighttime most recently. From the beginning of this month, Gyeongbokgung Palace has been opening its gates after dark, and each night until late September, visitors can step inside and breathe in the crisp autumn air under the beautiful palace lights. But before I tell you more, follow me and I'll take you there.
When the sun sets and darkness falls, time travel to the Joseon dynasty begins. Limited guests, including many foreigners, line up for this special night adventure. From babies in strollers to older people with cameras, visitors of all ages show delight on their faces. Many slip into hanbok, immersing themselves in the royal nightscape.
The first time for me in this dress, beautiful, absolutely amazing because of these lights and you know, the atmosphere. It's great to come here during the day, but of course this night is absolutely special.
The Gyeongwon Pavilion, once a royal banqueting hall, is the place that many photo takers look forward to the most, as the ripples spreading softly around the pond attract much attention.
Visitors are flocking to Gyeongwon Pavilion, the highlight of this night tour, all trying to capture the pavilion's reflection in the pond. Only 3,000 visitors are admitted each night, with 300 extra tickets for foreigners. And if you're in hanbok, you can enjoy all of this for free, a true highlight of the night.
It truly served as a perfect photo spot, keeping visitors strolling around it until closing hours. Another spotlight was a performance by the Korean Traditional Music Orchestra of the Blind, an ensemble whose history even traces back to King Sejong. Their emotional lyrics and lively rhythms deeply moved the audience.
I'm so proud to show my family traditional Korean music. The weather's also just perfect to enjoy it.
I know a little bit of the language, but not totally what they're talking about. But watching, I almost started to get some teary-eyed. Even though they're blind, I'm sure they have like other superpowers, just like singing.
With more foreigners visiting during the night, officials say the surge is clear.
Interest is surging, fueled by K-pop and recently K-pop Demon Hunters. More foreigners, especially the younger generation, wish to experience traditional Korean architecture themselves. Around one-third of visitors are from overseas, from even Europe and Africa.
She said that thanks to those visitors, last year 6.4 million people visited the palace, and already this year, over 4.2 million have come. Expectations are for the figure to reach at least 7 million this year, the most ever. And you'll be able to add to that as the special night tour under the glowing moonlight continues until September 28th.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, Kono, I heard that the palace is making more efforts to create a better environment for visitors, so tell us more.
That's true. So incense burners in front of the Gyeongbokgung, the main hall of this palace, and a designated treasure of South Korea have recently been announced as part of a restoration project. This is meaningful as the upper part, which is currently missing, once symbolized royal authority with a dragon representing the king. So restoring it goes beyond simply repairing a cultural asset. It also revives the Joseon Dynasty's ceremonial traditions and symbolic order. And the Korea Heritage Service chief said that a 3,300 square meter flagship store will be built under the palace by 2027. The move comes amid surging demand for Korea-related merchandise, especially after the popularity of K-pop Demon Hunters.
Sounds fascinating. And Kono, before we let you go, do you have any more useful information for those who want to enjoy other heritage sites here in Seoul?
Yes, of course I do. So first of all, for those looking forward to the night opening of the Gyeongbokgung Palace I visited, I highly recommend to look out and try checking the Interpark ticketing platform in case of any cancellations. And the other three major palaces, including Changgyeonggung and Deoksugung, are also offering nighttime viewings just as Gyeongbokgung does right now. And from October 8th to 12th, the Royal Palace Culture Festival is set to take place across all four major palaces, as well as Jongmyo Shrine. For more details, it's recommended to check out the official website that you're seeing on this screen right now. And visitors can enjoy traditional performances, exhibitions, hands-on experiences, and reenactments of royal ceremonies.
All right, our culture correspondent Park Geon-woo will see you next week.
See you.
As rain has been gradually falling in inland areas, it will spread to the Seoul metropolitan area and southern parts of Chungcheong provinces. And at night, rain will also begin to fall in coastal areas of Gangwon-do provinces. Heavy rain of up to 150 millimeters will fall in southern Gyeonggi-do province, Gangwon-do province, Chungcheong-namdo, and Jeollabuk-do provinces. With strong and heavy rain falling, the late summer heat in the western regions will also ease off. The daytime high in Seoul exceeded 30 degrees Celsius yesterday, but only reached 28 degrees today, and it will drop again to 26 degrees tomorrow. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off at 21 degrees, Chuncheon at 20 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 28 degrees in Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu, Gyeongju, and Busan, 29 degrees. Rain will continue in Gangwon-do, Gyeongsangbuk-do provinces, and Jeju Island until Sunday morning. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for tonight. I am Song Yujin in Seoul. For all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.